Something truly odd has been happening here for months now, and I haven't been able to explain it all. So I'm going to tell you my story, and hope that somebody out there can help me find a rational explanation for the whole thing. Before I start, let me tell you all a little something about myself. I was in college for a few years and graduated this year. So as a result, a lot of things in my apartment are mostly old, hand-me-downs and relatives, things like that. I was so busy as a college student in the past that I didn't even have time to go out and buy new things for my apartment, even though I could afford it. So I would mostly use other things like blankets to cover my windows with. This brings us to the most important part of the story. Keep in mind, this takes place over a whole span of 2.5 months later. It started one June morning when I woke up, the feeling that I was being watched. I looked around my room and saw nothing out of the ordinary. I was puzzled as to why I keep having this feeling, until I looked up at the ceiling. Near the window, there was a single shadow shaped like an eye, and it appeared to be looking directly at me. I did find somewhat creepy, but figured that it was just harmless. After all, it was just the shadows making odd shapes, which they always did here. So I ignored it and went on with my life. However, as the days passed, that eye didn't go away, and what was more, it seemed to be multiplying. After 1 week passed, there was now 5 shadow eyes surrounding the area around my window. The feeling that I was being watched continued to intensify, so much to my annoyance. This realist in me kept saying that it was only in my head, and that they were only the old blankets I used as my old bedroom curtains, as they were causing those eyes to appear. After all, the old blankets do have these tiny holes in them, which could easily cast a lot of weird shadows. But despite this rational explanation, I still found myself completely disconcerted by those eyes, especially when they have start to blink and move their pupils around as if they were alive. As the weeks passed, the eyes continued to increase in numbers until they covered the entire ceiling. I've enclosed some photos of them that looked like with my phone camera so you could see for yourself that I'm not lying about the whole thing. Unfortunately, it does not show the other half of the ceiling very well due to poor lighting conditions. Still, it shows you exactly what I wake up to every morning now. After a month, I had gotten used to them and simply resigned myself to the fact that they would always be there. It got to the point where I started ignoring them again and going on about my business as if they weren't there. This kind of embarrassing to admit, but after I gotten used to them being there, I stopped being self-cautious about doing things like doing something personal and private in front of those eyes. I basically thought to myself, what the heck? They're only shadows. I need some alone time. This was something and somewhat weird would happen. The eyes on the ceiling seemed to react to my actions at this point. They would all blink furiously as if they watched me pleasure myself. And the weird part? There seemed to be an increase in the number of eyes as I did it. Although I could easily be all in my head after all, it's not like it took me the time to count them all. Around July 16th, my mom decided to stay the night, considering how she liked to get up at 3 a.m. for work. My place was much closer to her workplace, and she lived in the next town over, so it made sense for her to stay with me, instead of her driving for an hour in the dark. So I agreed to let her stay the night. However, my apartment had only 1 bedroom, so I had to let her sleep in my bedroom while I took the sofa in the living room. The next morning, she looked completely unsettled. When I asked her what's wrong, she mentioned that there was something strange on my ceiling. I smiled and said something around the effect of, "Oh yeah, the eyes, they've been there for a month. I did find them creepy at first, but I've gotten used to them." She became even more upset at this and demanded to know why I didn't call her right away when they first appeared. I just shrugged, saying that I didn't see what the big deal was. It's not as if they were real eyes to start with. It was just the optical illusion that the old curtains were causing. She just shook her head and told me that they were not your everyday ordinary illusion, that apparently I had caught the attention of some creature called the Gotoburugu. At this point, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Oh, here we go again. You see, despite the fact that she's a nurse, who's good at she still does, she still believes that the old superstitions. Her great-grandparents were immigrants from Norway and Germany, and they migrated to America long before World War I and World War II happened. I guess they couldn't help but entrench their children in the old pagan ways and beliefs. So there were generations of the family that were highly superstitious, and couldn't help but rub it off on my mom. I, of course, do not believe in this silly nonsense, like supernatural creatures, bad luck, or any of that stuff. I tend to believe that there is always a rational explanation for everything. Anyway, my mom explained to me about the Godabuk, which translates to God eyes in English. People in the ancient times used to think that they were eyes of gods or goddesses watching them, in which they named it that. However, a few people believe that those were the eyes of some supernatural stalker, not a deity. Apparently, the god's eyes was like some sort of voyager spirit that often gets obsessed with any living thing that happens to catch its attention. And it's just like with human stalkers, it often forms strong attachment to the person with that stalking. They would often become violent towards anyone who think they might be purposely getting in the way between them and the object of their affections. That often meant spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, and family members. And this would always follow the same subject of their affections around until the person's died of old age or something else. I responded that it was certainly an entertaining story, but not that it is just a story. I explained to her that it was only the curtains casting the weird shadows, nothing more. I thought that if I gave her a rational explanation for the eyes, she would just shut up about it, but she didn't. She kept bringing up the topic about me getting a priest to exorcise the whole apartment so that the gobot would not come back. She also kept coming back almost every day to check up on me, to the point where I had no privacy at all. It was like it had moved in with me. Around July 29th, I was completely fed up with my mother's foolishness thanks to my temper. I had made the worst mistake I've ever made in my life. I decided to rant about the whole thing to my silent observers, the eyes. I ranted about how my idiotic mother was being about them, and how she kept trying to talk to me into getting a priest to exorcise the whole apartment to get rid of them. I told the eyes that I believed them because they were completely harmless and that they wouldn't hurt anyone. That's why I was fine with them being here. After I cooled down, I felt completely stupid talking to the shadows on the ceiling. I swore to myself that I wouldn't even let my mother's foolishness get to me. I was almost starting to think that those eyes as a living entity, for Pete's sake. It was when I decided that I would go out shopping for a new pair of curtains. After all, it wasn't like I was a poor college student anymore. I could afford some new curtains, get rid of the ones on the ceiling, and that would shut up my mother once and for all. I came back with another pair of red blackout curtains, which had this really nice red velvet to them. I took down the old blankets and installed the new curtains. It was sundown at this point, so after I was done with that, I went to bed. The next morning, I noticed that the eyes weren't there anymore. I couldn't help but smirk mentally, thinking, "You're in your face, Mom." I knew it wasn't supernatural entity. I texted my mother about it and got new curtains, but she also saw how the eyes were now gone, so she didn't need to worry about me anymore. She didn't respond back. She didn't even visit me for a whole week. In fact, she dropped all contact. At the first, part of me was slightly worried, but I just put it off as her being really busy with work. After all, she would sometimes become a huge workaholic at the hospital where she worked. So much so that she had no time to check her calls or messages, or even stop by to see me. It was basically normal activity for her. But one early morning at the end of the week, I got a call from my dad. Apparently he hadn't seen my mom all week long, but he got into writing a memo about her, saying that in my apartment, if her work required her to come at 3 a.m., he really didn't do much. However, he started to miss her, so he called my mom on her cell phone, but no one answered. Then the hospital he tried to call to get a hold of her, but they told him that she hadn't come back to work in a few days. Now worried, he called me and asked if I had seen my mom in a while. I told him, of course I haven't. She's been really busy with work. But then he told me that the hospital told him about his wife not coming to work. They were having the police search for her now. God, I really hope nothing bad happened to her. Now, for the worst part of my story. The eyes came back after we reported her missing. They appeared again early this morning, acting as if they never left to start. Now they stared down at me, watching my every move. They were not just confirmed of my bedroom anymore. The eyes have started spreading to the rest of my apartment. First, they branched into my bathroom so that they could watch me bathe and do my business. I have to tell you, it's really difficult when you have to feel you're being watched. After they're done conquering the bathroom, some of them move to the kitchen, then the living room. Now there won't be any place in my own home so I could hide for those eyes. I thought about moving, but what if my mom was right? What if it was really the go-to-bed who tends to stalk me everywhere until I die? No, there has to be a rational explanation for this, right? Maybe I just turned this insane person and just didn't know about it. But maybe what's even worse? What if I did something to my own mother and then forgot about it? Well, my pretties, that was Eyes on the Ceiling, a creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? This is honestly a really well-written creepypasta. It has a really interesting idea. You know, the person or protagonist have like the thought of being watched and they hate it and all that. I mean, it's a pretty amazing pasta. I mean, I honestly really find this to be, pretty interesting. And it does have a really good concept. I mean, it's honestly, I can honestly see how creepy this is. Now, this story, I believe, was written in 2012 or something. It's a very older story, but hey, I find it to be, a pretty good one, a good story. So I definitely gotta say, it does have a really interesting concept, and I do find it to be, rather good. I do find it to be, amazing, well done. Honestly, I really have to say, this is actually a pretty well story. I mean, it's really well written, so to the author of the story, this one was amazing. You did pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. This story was definitely one of the best stories I've ever written. Well, not written, but read. So, yeah. This story was definitely a pretty good one. Now, I did see Support Marker narrate this story, back about 5 years ago. Well, yeah, that was the video he did. I think I did see that video in 2010 or something. No, wait, not 2010. I think I did see something, like, I did see that video, I believe, when, I think it was 2018 or something. I don't remember. But it does have a really great concept for this story. And I definitely gotta say, it's a really great story. So, I mean, it does have it's well made. It's definitely worth, checking out. I really do find it to be, a pretty amazing story. I do like it. And I recommend you guys, take a look at this story. If you haven't, it's on the regular Creepypasta Wiki. But man, this one was definitely pretty good. I mean, I would hate the feeling of being watched too, because, the feeling of being watched is pretty, pretty surprising and messed up. So, yeah. But like I said, it's actually quite interesting. So, I guess with that being the case and with that being said, I'm going to sit here and just say, I don't know who the original author of the story is, as I can't seem to find it. So if the original author manages to find this story, then they can, then they are free to, comment and let me know that if they're the ones that wrote the story. So that way I can, sit there and, well, so I could sit there and, actually take a look at, about who the author is, and I'll be sure to give him proper credit. Anyways, I'm sorry if I do sound like I'm sick. My voice has been acting up, so it's coming and going. So, yeah, just thought I would let you guys know. But I guess that being said, like I said, this is my own opinion, my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating is definitely a 10 out of 10. A really great story, really good, well made. It's definitely a really good one. I definitely have to say has a really great story. I do appreciate, the grammar being good as well as the sentence structuring, the storyline. I mean, I always wonder what happened to Mom. I have a feeling she's either went missing or she ended up dying, which, I mean, I hate to think of the worst, but, people can suggest, maybe come up with some theories of what happened to the mom in this story, because I'm generally curious and wanting to know. So, with that being said, this story gets a 10 out of 10. It's a really good one. It's pretty well made. It's really good. It's definitely worth to watch, and it's, a pretty good one. So, I guess with that being the case, and with that being said, yeah. What did you guys think about this story? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what would you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me now with your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're new to my channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload. And as always, I'll be seeing you all in the next video. And as always, please roll the outro. Oh, pardon me. Sorry about that. Oh, man, I got the hiccups. But anyways, please roll the outro because I'm out of here. And I'll catch you all next time.